Welcome, the anointed ones. When heaven issues a verdict, hell can't overrule it. That's not a metaphor, that's a spiritual fact. And somebody just found that out the hard way. You, the chosen one, were once the target, the scapegoat, the misunderstood one sitting in the corner of chaos, quietly absorbing storms you didn't start. They slandered you so confidently because they thought no one would ever check them. They believed your silence meant surrender. But overnight, something snapped, and it wasn't you, it was them. Because now, someone is defending you with the kind of fire they've never faced. And this ain't your cousin on Facebook with a paragraph. No, we're talking someone with real reach, real receipts, and zero fear. Someone who doesn't care about their tears, titles, or tantrums. Here's a fact that might surprise you. Most betrayals don't come from your enemies. They come from spectators who said nothing. But guess what? One of those spectators just switched sides, and they're loud now. Suddenly people are nervous, not because they care about what they did, but because someone they respect just started calling it out. Their dirty secrets are now confession tapes being replayed in rooms you were never invited to. And the people who cheered when you were being crucified, they're sweating bullets now that the cross is empty and you're rising. Oh, and let's be honest, don't you love a little plot twist? Especially the kind where the villain gets exposed by someone they thought was on their team. It's like watching a toxic group chat implode, just add popcorn. So grab yours. Because what flipped overnight wasn't just the narrative, it was the entire spiritual courtroom. And baby, they are losing their minds trying to figure out how the one they buried just became the headline, the witness, and the divine evidence. Let's get into it. Number 1. They laughed when you had no backup. Now they're panicking because someone powerful took your side. They laughed because they thought you had no one in your corner. They were bold with their disrespect, confident in their cruelty, and loud with their lies because they assumed you were defenseless. In their minds, you were powerless, easy to manipulate, easy to mock, easy to throw under the bus without consequence. They saw your silence as weakness, your isolation as failure, and your humility as permission. They were convinced you would never be believed, never be protected, and never be backed by anyone who mattered. That's why they did what they did so boldly. They didn't expect any accountability. But overnight, the script flipped. Now someone powerful, respected, and credible has stepped up and said, "No more." And just like that, the same people who mocked you are stumbling over their own narratives. The fear is written all over their faces, not because they regret what they did, but because they're scared of what's coming. It's not guilt, it's panic. Suddenly they're trying to patch up stories, erase proof, and play nice. Why? Because someone with authority is watching now. Someone who's not afraid to speak the truth out loud. Someone who won't let your name be dragged any longer. And it's driving them crazy. They're calling each other, holding emergency meetings, trying to figure out how to spin this. But it's too late. The damage is done, and the person defending you isn't doing it halfway. They're exposing the mess they thought was hidden. It's not just defense. It's correction. It's exposure. It's justice in real time. You don't even have to lift a finger. You're just watching the same people who once laughed at your pain now sweating under the pressure of truth. The same mouth that disrespected you yesterday is now shaking in silence, hoping nobody digs deeper. But digging is exactly what's happening. The person defending you came with a shovel and a spotlight, and this time, you're not the one on trial. They are. They thought you were alone. What they didn't know was that heaven was just waiting for the right moment to make it public. And now that someone with influence is speaking for you, their fake confidence is collapsing like a house of cards. Number 2. You didn't need a crowd. You needed one voice with authority to say, "Leave them alone." You didn't need a crowd behind you. You didn't need 1,000 people reposting your pain, cheering you on, or screaming your truth. All you ever needed was one real voice. Just one person who had the courage, the position, and the clarity to say, "This isn't right, leave them alone." And now that it's finally happened, the atmosphere has shifted completely. The silence that once protected your enemies has cracked wide open, and the ripple effect is undeniable. The weight of one real defender is collapsing everything false they built around you. It's not that you didn't speak up, you did. but your voice was intentionally ignored. People heard you and chose comfort over courage. They stayed out of it because it wasn't happening to them. Some of them even agreed with you in private but kept their mouths shut in public. And yet, despite the betrayal and the loneliness, you never begged for validation. You just kept walking. You kept your integrity intact. That's what makes this moment so divine. It's not about numbers. It's about timing. And truth always finds its moment. Now that someone with authority is speaking up on your behalf, everything is changing. Conversations that were once whispered behind your back are now being challenged face to face. People who swore they didn't know what was happening are scrambling to clean their hands. The same ones who laughed at your struggles are now too afraid to be associated with the mess they helped create. All because someone finally said what needed to be said, and said it without fear. One voice, strong, bold, and unapologetic, can do more than 1,000 voices pretending not to see. This person isn't defending you for clout or applause. They see you. They see what you endured. And their voice is turning the lights on in every dark place where you were misrepresented. They're confronting the narrative, not sugarcoating it, and the truth is hitting harder than any revenge ever could. You never needed a crowd to prove your worth. Crowds are loud, but often useless. All it took was one voice with influence and truth, and now the lies are collapsing under the weight of real evidence and divine timing. Number 3. They were comfortable abusing you until someone with status started watching. They were so comfortable mistreating you because they thought no one important was watching. They didn't just cross the line, they danced over it. They mocked you, manipulated situations, and pushed your buttons for fun. You became the easy target, the scapegoat, the one they could mess with when they needed someone to blame. And they did it all without shame, because in their minds, there were no real consequences. No one would check them. No one would believe you. You were the quiet one, the humble one, the one who kept turning the other cheek, and they mistook your grace for weakness. But that comfort they once had, it's gone, completely gone, because someone with real eyes and real power just stepped in. Someone with influence, integrity, and no tolerance for injustice. That person saw what was happening or got wind of it. And now the people who once felt safe hurting you are panicking. They're scrambling to switch up their behavior because the game has changed. It's no longer just you they're dealing with. It's someone who can actually shake their world. They never thought it would come to this. They assumed they had the upper hand forever. They relied on your isolation. They thrived in your silence. But now, they're the ones walking on eggshells. They're suddenly trying to act neutral, pretending they were never involved, hoping this new voice doesn't call them out directly. Their body language is different. Their tone has changed. The boldness is gone. Why? Because someone they fear or respect is now watching closely. That's the part they never saw coming. They were so busy tearing you down in private that they forgot that what's done in the dark never stays hidden. And now, the light is here. The person defending you isn't just whispering behind the scenes. They're confronting things head-on. And it's making the very people who once thought they were untouchable feel the pressure they thought they'd never experience. They used to laugh because they thought you had no protection. Now they're quiet because they know someone with power is finally calling out their mess. And the tables, they didn't just turn, they flipped hard. Number 4, they swore you were lying, until somebody showed up with receipts you never even had. They swore you were lying over and over again, with straight faces and fake concern. They convinced people you were bitter, delusional, or just making things up for attention. They twisted your truth so well that even those closest to you started doubting what you said. They had backup, they had fake witnesses, they had confidence built on your supposed silence, and they thought they won. Because in their mind, lies repeated enough times become reality. But what they didn't know was that someone else was watching, someone with access, someone with receipts, someone who saw what you didn't even know was being documented. You didn't have to play dirty to prove your truth. You didn't have to argue with people who already made up their minds. God didn't need you to collect screenshots, record conversations, or chase down justice. He raised up someone who already had it. Someone who had the missing pieces you never asked for. That person stepped in at the right moment, And when they showed up, the whole story cracked open. The truth came out, not in whispers, but in bold, undeniable facts. And suddenly, every smug smirk turned into nervous silence. It hit hard, because this person didn't just defend you emotionally, they came with hard proof, the kind of proof that can't be ignored. Voice notes, emails, witness statements, details only an insider would know, things you never had access to but desperately needed. And when they dropped that evidence, the lies fell apart faster than anyone expected. Now, the same people who swore they knew the truth are trying to rewrite their own stories. They're quiet now, not because they care, but because the evidence shut them down. They can't gaslight their way out of this. They can't play innocent. They can't blame you. All they can do is watch as everything they built on deception gets exposed. The most powerful part. You didn't lift a finger. You didn't have to destroy them. The truth did. And the person God assigned to speak on your behalf didn't come to play. They came to bring justice. The receipts weren't just proof. They were divine confirmation that you were never lying. They were always wrong. And now, everyone knows it. Number 5. Somebody in the room they worship finally said, "You're the problem, not them." They built their power on perception. They controlled the narrative because no one dared to challenge them. They were the loudest in the room, the most convincing, the most manipulative. People bowed to their version of events, not because it was true, but because they had influence. And for a long time that worked. They painted you as the issue. They pointed fingers. They cried fake tears. And everyone believed them, especially because the ones who could say something chose to stay silent. Until now, someone they admire, someone they answer to, someone they worship, not in a spiritual sense, but in influence, status, and credibility, finally stood up and said the words they never thought they'd hear. "You're the problem, not them." And just like that, the room froze. Because when that kind of voice speaks, people listen, and they know it. That one sentence carried more weight than all the lies they told for years. It wasn't said in a whisper. It wasn't hinted at behind closed doors. It was stated directly, publicly, firmly. And that one moment of truth shattered every mask they ever wore. The same stories they used to manipulate people now sound ridiculous. The sympathy they once collected so easily is drying up. People are starting to connect the dots they used to ignore. That voice didn't defend you because you begged for it. They defended you because the truth is finally undeniable. And it's coming from someone whose words they can't twist or dismiss. The one voice they tried so hard to keep out of the situation is now knee-deep in it. And they're not pulling punches. They're exposing patterns, calling out behavior, and making it clear that the villain isn't who everyone thought it was. Now they're spiraling, scrambling to protect what's left of their reputation, trying to shift blame, but it's not working anymore. The power they once held over people is cracking. Their influence is bleeding out, because the person they relied on for validation is no longer playing along. And that hits differently. All it took was one respected voice telling the truth, and the whole illusion shattered like cheap glass. And you didn't have to say a thing. Number 6, your character is being defended in rooms you were never allowed to enter. While they were busy trying to shut you out, shut you down, and shut you up, something divine was already in motion behind the scenes. They locked doors thinking they were locking you out of influence, protection, and opportunity. They blocked your access, uninvited you from conversations, and made sure your name stayed in the dirt while their lies stayed polished. You weren't just excluded. You were deliberately erased. But what they didn't realize was that you never needed their doors. God had already sent someone in through another entrance. Now your name is being defended in rooms you were never even allowed to enter, rooms where your reputation was casually destroyed, places where fake narratives about you were repeated until they became groupthink. They slandered you in private circles, thinking no one loyal to you would ever find out. But someone did. And not only did they find out, they stepped in, spoke up, and shut it all down. This isn't just anyone defending you. This is someone who carries weight in those circles, someone whose words carry more influence than your enemy's lies ever did. They're not speaking from emotion. They're speaking from truth, backed by insight and credibility. And the same people who nodded along when you were being disrespected are now silent, awkward, embarrassed, convicted, because the truth is being spoken in spaces where it was once banned. And here's the twist. They didn't see it coming. They assumed your absence meant defeat. They thought because you weren't in the room, they were safe to say anything about you. But God planted someone on the inside, someone who saw right through the manipulation, someone who got tired of watching injustice pass as consensus. And now, the conversations are shifting, the lies are being unraveled, the smear campaigns are being questioned, and your character is being restored, without you having to show up or explain yourself. That's the power of divine justice. You are being protected even in places you were never invited. Your name is being covered by someone who isn't scared of them. And the people who once whispered about you in confidence are now sitting in quiet shame as the truth rises like fire in the very rooms where they tried to bury it. Number 7. The same people who enabled the abuse are now flipping sides out of fear. They were never truly neutral. The ones who stood by and said nothing when you were being attacked weren't innocent, they were enablers. They saw what was happening. They heard the lies, witnessed the sabotage, and stayed quiet while you were left to defend yourself. Some even laughed behind closed doors. Others offered fake sympathy while still aligning with the people who were tearing you down. Their silence gave your enemies room to operate. Their refusal to stand up made the abuse feel justified. And the worst part? They convinced themselves they were just staying out of drama. But now that someone powerful is speaking up for you, everything is shifting. And so are they. Not because they've had a moral awakening, not because they suddenly respect you, but because they're scared, terrified, actually, terrified of being exposed, terrified of being associated with the very mess they once entertained. They've seen how quickly the truth is spreading now. They know it's only a matter of time before names are named, receipts are revealed, and questions start circling. And they don't want to be caught on the wrong side of it all. So now they're flipping, jumping ship, pretending they were always in your corner, commenting on your posts, sharing your quotes, even apologizing in vague, non-specific ways. But don't be fooled, this isn't loyalty. It's fear management, it's damage control, it's self-preservation dressed up as concern. They're not protecting you, they're protecting themselves. Because the person defending you now has weight, influence, power. And when that kind of voice steps into the room, everyone starts rethinking their positions. The same people who once ignored you are now making room for your name out of pure survival instinct. They're realizing that your story, the one they dismissed, is becoming public record. And if they don't shift fast, they'll be listed as complicit. Their support isn't a redemption arc, it's a panic move. You don't owe them access, grace, or your trust. Let them watch from a distance. Because their switch-up has nothing to do with truth and everything to do with fear of the fallout. They didn't defend you when it cost something. So don't let them benefit now that it's safe. Number 8. Divine timing made sure they were watching when the truth exploded. The truth didn't come out when you were still in pain, trying to pick up the pieces. It didn't break open when you were crying yourself to sleep, wondering if anyone would ever believe you. No, it came later, on purpose. That was divine timing. God waited until the exact moment when they thought they had completely gotten away with it. When they were bragging, when they were bold, when they were telling new lies on top of the old ones, when they felt untouchable. That's when the truth hit. And it didn't just whisper, it exploded. It wasn't random, it was calculated by heaven. God could have exposed them earlier, but he didn't. He let them build their false narratives so high, they became arrogant. He let them gather followers, win sympathy, and walk around like they were righteous. And just when they got comfortable, when their pride was at its peak, everything flipped. That's when the exposure came. Not quietly, not in secret, but in full view. Because it wasn't just about vindicating you, it was about making sure they were watched while the truth unraveled. The same people who were clapping for them are now stepping back. The same ones who repeated their lies are deleting messages and distancing themselves. Why? Because they saw it. God made sure they witnessed it. The exposure wasn't just for justice, it was for impact. Everyone who defended the wrong side had to see with their own eyes that they were backing a fraud. No one can claim ignorance now. The mask didn't just slip, it shattered, and the pieces cut deep. That's how divine justice works. It doesn't rush. It waits until the truth will do more than just correct. It will redefine. The truth exposed them at the very moment they were sure the spotlight would never reach them. It landed when they were at their loudest, most prideful, most reckless. And that's what makes the fall hit harder. You didn't have to force it. You didn't have to go public or beg people to see. God timed the revelation so that no one could miss it. They were supposed to see it. They needed to see it, because what they once applauded is now what they're running from. And the truth made sure it had a full audience. Number 9. You never had to prove anything. You were the proof. You were never required to prove anything. Not to people who were committed to misunderstanding you. Not to those who had already decided you were the villain, no matter what the truth was. They poked. They prodded. They baited you into reacting so they could use your emotions against you. They waited for you to explode, just so they could say, "See? We told you." But you didn't give them that satisfaction. You didn't play their game. And that silence, the one they mocked, became your loudest form of resistance. Your proof was never in the things you said. It was in the things you endured. You survived attacks that would have broken most people. You stayed grounded when the easiest thing to do would have been to lash out. Your ability to remain calm under pressure exposed just how chaotic and unstable they really were. You didn't scream, but your peace screamed for you. You didn't retaliate, but your restraint exposed their intentions. Every time you chose grace instead of revenge, you were building an unshakable case without even knowing it. Now someone else has caught it, someone who's been paying attention, even when you thought no one was watching. And they're not confused about who you are. They've seen the contrast for themselves. Your calm versus their chaos, your consistency versus their manipulation. And that person is using their voice now. They're naming what others ignored. They're speaking the truth with confidence, not because you begged them to, but because they saw the proof in you. You were never the accuser. You never had to beg for people to see what was going on. Your life, your energy, your integrity did all the talking. That's what makes this moment so powerful, because now your silence isn't just being noticed. It's being interpreted. It's being honored. Someone is standing up not to speak over you, but to speak for you. And that voice is finally putting into words what your endurance already revealed. You were never the problem. You were the evidence. They thought you lost because you stayed quiet. But the truth is, your quiet made them loud enough to expose themselves. And now, your stillness has become the final word in a battle you never had to fight out loud. Number 10. The one defending you isn't just loyal. They're dangerous to your enemies. The one defending you right now isn't just standing behind you. They're coming for the very systems that tried to destroy you. This isn't some polite, behind-the-scenes support. This is strategic. It's bold, it's loud, and it's dangerous to your enemies. They're not just speaking on your behalf. They're dismantling entire lies, exposing the people behind them, and shaking the fake structures that once stood against you. They're not scared to confront what others tiptoed around. This person isn't driven by pity. They're driven by principle. They see the injustice for what it really was, not just isolated drama, but a pattern of manipulation, abuse, and deception. And now they're using their platform, their voice, and their influence to go straight for the root. Not just calling people out, but calling them in to face accountability. They're not wasting time arguing with cowards in corners. They're taking it to the top, to the rooms that matter, to the people who once stayed quiet. Your enemies were never afraid of you alone. That's why they went so hard, because they thought you had no backup. But now that this person has shown up, the fear is real. Your enemies are second-guessing everything. They're watching their networks crumble. Their secrets aren't safe anymore. Their lies are being cross-examined. The people they used to rely on for cover are going silent or switching sides. And it's not because you're finally talking, it's because someone with power is doing it for you. And the most dangerous part, this defender knows how to move. They're smart. They're not out here being emotional, they're calculated. They come with receipts, strategy, timelines, context, and clarity. They know who did what, when it happened, and how it was covered up. And they're not afraid to let it all spill. They're not defending you out of hype. They're defending you with evidence. That's what makes them a threat to every fake alliance that worked against you in the dark. This is not just protection, this is spiritual warfare with legal precision. And the ones who once celebrated your downfall, they're watching their own legacies start to rot, because the person defending you isn't just loyal. They're a wrecking ball to every lie ever told about you. Number 11. Your enemies are facing the horror of being seen, not by you, but by someone with consequences. Your enemies were never afraid of you. That's why they did what they did so boldly. You didn't have the connections, the influence, or the backing they feared. You had the truth, but they knew most people didn't care about that unless it came wrapped in power. So they abused the fact that your voice didn't carry weight in the rooms they controlled. They mocked you, slandered you, lied on your name, and walked away without blinking. They were confident you couldn't touch them. And back then, you couldn't. But now the tables have turned, and not because you fought back, but because someone with actual consequences is watching them now, someone who carries real weight, someone who has the ear of people they can't manipulate, someone who's not interested in their charm, their titles, or their rehearsed apologies. That person is staring directly into the mess your enemies created, and they are not blinking. And for the first time, your enemies are being seen, not through filters, not through gossip, but through clear, brutal truth. This isn't like before. They can't gaslight their way out of it. They can't twist the narrative this time. The person watching them now has no emotional bias, no history to protect, and no need to play nice. And what terrifies your enemies most is the fact that they can't control this voice. They can't charm their way into their good graces. They can't fake cry their way to sympathy. Every trick they used before is useless now. They are being seen for who they really are. And that kind of exposure cuts deeper than anything you could have ever said. It's not just uncomfortable for them, it's humiliating. Because it's not coming from you, the one they always dismissed. It's coming from someone who has the power to act. Someone who can open doors, close doors, and shift public opinion without warning. Someone whose words carry weight in every space your enemies once ruled with lies. The horror isn't in being caught. It's in being caught by someone they can't manipulate, and now they're spiraling. Because the spotlight they never thought would hit them is burning through every mask they've ever worn. And this time, there's no escape plan. Number 12. What they meant for harm is now the very evidence that's condemning them. They thought they were being clever. Every whisper behind your back, every setup, every screenshot taken out of context. Those were tools meant to destroy you. They plotted in silence, recorded conversations, stalked your moves, and twisted your words with surgical precision. They gathered dirt not because it was true, but because they needed ammunition. And in their minds, they had you cornered. You were supposed to break. You were supposed to beg. You were supposed to be humiliated. But what they never saw coming was that the very traps they set for you would become the very evidence used to bury them. Everything they collected, every sneaky message, every fake witness they convinced to lie, it's all coming back around, and not in a subtle way, not in a karma we'll deal with it one day kind of way. It's happening now. It's unraveling in front of people who matter. And what's worse for them, it's not you doing the exposing. It's someone else, someone neutral, someone credible, someone with no reason to protect them, no incentive to look the other way, and every reason to call out the truth. What they meant to use against you is now being re-examined with new eyes, and under this new light, it's not hurting you, it's convicting them. Their schemes, once so carefully designed to make you look unstable or problematic, now look calculated and obsessive. Their screenshots don't make you look bad anymore, they make them look like stalkers. Their evidence is becoming an archive of their own jealousy, insecurity, and manipulation. They can't control the story anymore. They can't pay off the right people or guilt-trip the wrong ones. The witnesses this time aren't the kind that can be swayed. These are people with receipts of their own, people who were quiet before but now feel empowered to speak. And they're backing the truth, not the performance. Now the weight of their own actions is suffocating them, and all the tools they built to take you down have become the nails sealing their own narrative shut. You never had to lie, edit, or exaggerate. All you had to do was outlive the setup. And now the evidence speaks louder than anything they ever tried to spin. Number 13. You weren't just vindicated, you were weaponized by heaven. You were not just vindicated, you were weaponized by heaven. This was never about just clearing your name. This was about turning your pain into power, your scars into strategy, and your suffering into a sword. Everything you went through, every betrayal, every breakdown, every silent battle, was being forged into something divine. What you thought was the end was actually preparation, not just for your healing, but for your impact. Your scars are no longer silent, they are loud, they carry weight, they speak in ways your words never could. And now, someone with real influence has picked up your story and is using it, not to gain sympathy, but to spark fire. They are not whispering about what happened to you. They are roaring. They are confronting the injustice. They are shaking the table. And because their voice is respected, people are listening. Heaven did not just lift you out of the pit. It turned you into a weapon. Not a weapon of revenge, but of righteous reckoning. You did not just survive what tried to kill you. You became the living evidence that darkness never wins. And now that evidence is being used to dismantle the very systems and people that tried to bury you. You are no longer a victim of the story. You are the fire behind a movement. The one defending you now is not holding back. They are not interested in playing it safe or protecting egos. They are using your truth like a sword, cutting through lies, exposing power plays, and revealing what others tried so hard to hide. Your pain is no longer a secret. It is a weapon of light, and it is being wielded with force. People who once mocked you are now silent, not because they respect you, but because they are afraid of how loud your story has become. And you didn't have to shout. God assigned someone else to carry the volume. They are making sure your name is not just restored, it is remembered. Your vindication came with a mission, and now you are not just the proof of survival. You are the strategy in someone else's hands, a divine weapon, a holy disruption, a voice they cannot silence. Number 14. The shift wasn't luck, it was divine legal warfare. What just happened in your life wasn't luck, it wasn't coincidence, it wasn't timing finally catching up with you. This was divine legal warfare. Heaven stepped in and issued a judgment, and it wasn't emotional. It was legal. It wasn't about your feelings. It was about the laws they broke in the spirit, the laws of justice, the laws of truth, the laws of sowing and reaping. For a long time, it looked like they got away with everything. They lied, they sabotaged, they humiliated you publicly and got rewarded for it. But while they were celebrating, heaven was building a case. And now the verdict is in. Your defender showing up in your life. That's not random. That's not just someone being kind. That is evidence. Evidence that a supernatural order has been issued, and your enemies are officially under judgment. They don't even realize it yet. But the shift already happened. They can feel something is off. Things are falling apart. Doors are closing. People are turning on them. And it's not because of gossip or rumor. It's because a higher authority has ruled in your favor. This judgment didn't just start when someone began speaking up for you. It started the moment heaven saw enough. The moment God said, "That's it, case closed." And now the consequences are unfolding. Slowly, strategically, but consistently. What they thought they escaped is now circling back around. And the force behind it is too big for them to outrun. Their downfall is not pending, it's already active. The exposure, the shame, the unraveling of their image, it's all part of a bigger correction. You're not witnessing karma, you're witnessing divine order, justice that doesn't miss. They didn't just wrong you, they violated something sacred. And now the consequences are spiritual, emotional, and even physical. You didn't have to take revenge because heaven already did. And your defender is just one part of that. They are the visible proof that what was hidden has reached its expiration date. What once protected your enemies is no longer covering them. The shield is gone, the grace has lifted, and now everything they built on deception is collapsing by divine instruction. This is not drama, this is spiritual court, and the ruling has already been made. They thought they buried you in silence, But they never saw the storm heaven was preparing behind the scenes. What looked like your quiet defeat was actually a divine setup, strategic, surgical, and unstoppable. You didn't have to scream, argue, or plead your case. Heaven did that for you. And now everything has flipped. Not because you retaliated, but because God retaliated for you. Through undeniable truth, through a fearless defender, and through supernatural timing that caught your enemies completely off guard. This shift isn't emotional, it's judicial. Your life is now evidence. Your scars are testimony. Your endurance is a courtroom record. You are no longer fighting to be heard. You are the voice, the verdict, and the vindication. And those who tried to destroy you, they're now answering to powers they can't manipulate, influence, or outrun. So don't second-guess what's happening. Don't try to shrink now that the spotlight is on your justice. Stand tall, stay focused, keep walking in your grace. What was once used against you has now been turned into the very force that's protecting you. And this is just the beginning. The story isn't just being corrected, it's being rewritten in your favor. You've been validated by heaven, and the world is being forced to witness it. If this message hit your spirit, don't just scroll, respond. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel right now so you never miss a word that confirms what God's been whispering to your soul. Like this video to boost the message and let the algorithm know truth still matters. Comment below and let us know what resonated with you, your story, your shift, your vindication. And don't keep this to yourself. Share it with someone who's been battling in silence and needs to know heaven fights for them too. This isn't just content, this is confirmation, this is clarity, this is a spiritual call to rise. Hit that bell icon so you're first in line when the next divine download drops. You're not alone, you're chosen. Let's walk this journey together. God bless you.